Hey everyone, I'm Jennifer Whitacre, trauma specialist and autistic individual, and welcome back to my channel and welcome back for this next installment in a video series I'm doing titled Understanding Autism. And today's topic is about dispelling myths and misconceptions about autism. And all of the information for today's video comes from a free PDF document that is published by the state of Nevada. And any of you can find it, just do a Google search of the topic and it should pop up on your first page of hits. That's where I found it. Now, I have added some details and facts that are not included in the document that I found other places. But most of the information you can find right there. And thank you to the state of Nevada for this free document. Okay, so the first myth is that the appearance of autism is relatively new, because it is believed that autism just started in the 80s or 90s or within the last century. However, the reality and the truth is that the earliest description of a child now known to have had autism was written in the year 1799. Ongoing research and improvements in diagnostic capabilities have identified that the characteristics of autism exist on a continuum with varying degrees of severity, intensity, and frequency, hence the spectrum. But the reality is this is not new. It's not some like random pandemic or epidemic. It's probably existed throughout the history of humans, and in all likelihood, humans who had autism in history were probably disciplined or punished or maybe even imprisoned or possibly tortured or executed, but they probably were not understood and were not treated very well. And there's also some eccentricity throughout history. So according to experts, historical figures who probably had autism include the likes of Thomas Jefferson, Nikola Tesla, Stanley Kubrick, Michelangelo, Ludwig Wittgenstein, Andy Warhol, William Butler Yeats, Charles Darwin, James Joyce, Emily Bronte, Emily Dickinson, Virginia Woolf, Hans Christian Andersen, Mozart, Beethoven, H.G. Wells, George Orwell, Isaac Newton, and Albert Einstein. I've heard of most of those people, and they kind of changed the world. What about you? The second myth is that autism is a mental health disorder. And that's not true. The truth is that autism is a neurological difference or a neurological disorder. And studies of people with autism have revealed differences in brain structure and neurotransmitter levels. And what's commonly overlooked is that individuals who have autism are more likely to have a co-occurring mental health condition that will need treatment. But the reason for that condition isn't necessarily the autism. The mental health condition a lot of times is attributed to the ostracism and the ableizing and trying to normalize and ableize us. A third myth is that all individuals with autism have mental disabilities, and that's not true. The truth is that individuals on the spectrum are unique with a wide and varied range of intellectual abilities. Individuals who are autistic, it's true, they can be harder to test. So IQ tests and abilities or IQ and abilities might be over or underestimated unless the testing is done by an expert. The tests are designed to include language and interpersonal analyses, and this may represent the intelligence of people with autism, especially if that autistic person struggles with social skills. So many autistic individuals, have really thriving careers in a variety of professions across the board. And on the flip side, it's sometimes mistaken or assumed that autistic individuals have higher levels of understanding than they do based on, again, stereotypes like Rain Man and the savant myth. A fourth myth is that autism is caused by vaccines. There is no evidence that childhood vaccination causes autism. Now, there was a study in 1998 that attempted to link autism with vaccines, and that study took off like wildfire. And, just like a rumor in a small town, it took off. And for some reason, it doesn't matter what the truth is, people won't believe it. They still stick to the rumor. But the reality is that 1998 study has since been retracted, not only by the people who conducted it, and numerous studies since then have confirmed, and studies continue to confirm, that there is no direct evidence that links vaccines to the development of autism. A fifth myth is that autism is caused by poor parenting or refrigerator mothers. Well, the truth is that in the 1950s, there was an assumption that autism was caused by emotionally distant or cold parents. Although the exact cause of autism has not been determined, it has been pretty firmly established that the development of autism has nothing to do with parenting style. A sixth myth is that autism is caused entirely by environmental factors. And that's not true either. The truth is that there very well could be a genetic connection as a component of autism, because it's not uncommon for several people in one family to pop up as having autism. And parents whose first child is autistic are more likely than the general population to have a second child who's also autistic. And identical twin studies have shown that if one twin is autistic, the other twin has a 90% chance of also being autistic. Now, environmental factors can contribute to the symptom severity for some individuals, but it's not the cause of autism. Another myth is that individuals with autism are violent. Now, there have been news stories that have attempted to relate autism to violence, but this is a misunderstanding of the behavior. Aggressive acts from autistic individuals usually arise from sensory overload or emotional distress, and it is highly unusual for an autistic individual to act violently out of malice or to pose any danger to society. In fact, autistic individuals are more likely to prefer to limit their exposure and interactions with other people because social situations can be really confusing and provoke a lot of anxiety. Another myth is that all individuals with autism have savant abilities. Well, the truth is there is a higher level of savant abilities among those with autism, but it's only about 10% of individuals who are autistic who actually exhibit savant abilities. So autistic individuals are more likely to have what are called splinter skills, which means that in one or two areas, they perform above and beyond their overall performance abilities. And I think, is that really unusual? Doesn't that happen to neurotypical people too? Yeah. Anyway, next myth is that individuals who are autistic do not feel love or are unable and unwilling to form meaningful social relationships. And that's not true. The truth is, autistic individuals are more likely to have difficulty with social interactions, but that doesn't mean that they can't develop close relationships. And autistic people absolutely have close relationships, fall in love, get married, have children, do all the things that neurotypical people do. It's just that autistic people may express their feelings of love in different or less obvious ways. But it doesn't mean that they're incapable. It's just understand instead of judge. The next myth is people who are autistic are cold and lack empathy. Well, this one's not true. Individuals who are autistic feel as much, if not more, empathy than other people do, but they may express it in ways that are different or, again, harder to recognize. Autistic individuals can be labeled as cold or uncaring if they're anxious and they're expected to perform and show care and empathy in a very specific or typical way, instead of being just permitted to express care and love, however that means to them. The next myth is people with autism can't stand to be touched. Well, the truth is that some people who have high sensory sensitivities might prefer not to be touched. And I know some neurotypical folks who don't like to be touched either. But the reality is a lot of autistic individuals do enjoy hugs, they enjoy massage and other forms of touch. The next myth is people who are autistic lack a sense of humor. And this can be true for anybody, autistic or neurotypical or whatever. But it's more likely that an autistic individual expresses or shares their humor in unique and, again, less obvious ways. And it's also common for an autistic person to mask or mimic those around them. So like mimicking comedy, mimicking jokes, and anticipating that others will be entertained, because that's one of the ways that we make our way through the world and through life because of ableism. And ableism is the expectation that we appear normal so other people don't feel uncomfortable around our autistic quirkiness, which is actually kind of ridiculous if you think about it. And the last myth is that autism can be cured. And this one is just not true. There is no cure for autism spectrum, plain and simple. I don't care what the MLM baggers have tried to, peddle my way. And I did have a woman approach me recently trying to say that she could cure my autism with, like a shake and some nutritional supplements. Sorry, I booted her butt out the door pretty quickly. So I hope you have found this information helpful. I hope you've learned something today, and I hope this helps you understand autistic folks just a little bit better. Please give me that thumbs up, share, subscribe, and be sure to hit that bell so you don't miss any videos. And I will see you next time, everyone. Happy self-discovery.